Any sense, based on your reporting, based on your conversations, that given the nature of this tragedy, given that we are talking about 9-year-olds who lost their lives in yet another mass shooting, is there any sense that this time is different, Ryan?
You know, in many ways, Kristen, it feels like a rinse and repeat situation here. You know, I've been on Capitol Hill after many of these mass shootings, very similar to this one in Nashville, and we generally get the same response from lawmakers from both sides of the Hill. And one of those lawmakers I caught up with is Congressman Tim Burchett, who represents Knoxville, that's Tennessee, you know, a little ways away from Nashville, but in the same state. And I think he really crystallized, you know, the Republican view of whether or not gun control legislation is worth it. Take a listen.
Legislate evil, it's just not going to happen. We've got evil in this country, and everybody just needs to tone down the rhetoric a little bit, because all that does is gin it up in both sides, and then they point the finger and nothing happens. Because if you think Washington's going to fix this problem, you're wrong. They're not going to fix this problem. They are the problem.
It doesn't concern you that other countries don't have this level of gun violence?
Other countries don't have our freedom either.
So you kind of see what the congressman told me there in response to my question about the disparity between gun violence here in the United States versus countries around the world. And he argued it was a freedom issue, which to a certain extent describes a level of tolerance with this type of violence when it comes to the protection of the Second Amendment. And, you know, this is something, again, it's something we deal with over and over again, and there just seems to be a resistance to move forward at all. There was that bipartisan gun legislation that was passed in the last Congress. But I want to point you to kind of a moment here on Capitol Hill today, Kristen, that kind of crystallizes just how frustrated some are with the lack of progress in this space. And that was the Senate chaplain, Barry Black, who rarely finds the opportunity to inject politics into his morning prayer, the first prayer that is said as the Senate gavels into session. And he said in his prayer this morning, he said, quote, "When babies die, it is time to move beyond prayers." That was during his prayer this morning. So, Kristen, just an idea of that there is some frustration within these halls, but not necessarily enough frustration for any progress to be made.
Ryan, your exchange with the congressman was so important, and I'm so glad that you highlighted that from the chaplain today, because it was so incredibly rare. You're absolutely right to hear that from him. Quite a moment, and I just want to thank you all for your reporting on such an incredibly difficult story. NBC's Ken Delaney and Katie Beck and Ryan Nobles, we really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.